Hi, welcome everybody to the Recovery and Performance Show. It's Doug Smith, former NHL player, broadcasting from the shores of the Ottawa River up here in Ottawa, Canada. And I'd really love to introduce you to my co-host, Dr. Laurie Davis. Dr. Laurie Davis, thanks for joining us today. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, Doug. And we're just enjoying a brisk winter morning here in the west of Canada and Alberta, Canada. But the temperatures are going up to 14 by the weekend. So all
T-shirt
that,
weather.
I know, all that snow is going to melt. Welcome, everybody. Right now, we're streaming live right here on the channel. Also, streaming live on Self Worth the Missing Link Facebook page, Superstars. And we've got a room full of superstars today. Self Worth the Missing Link Superstars, yes. And on the Laurie Davis Show Host YouTube page. So you can catch us anywhere, and the shows are being archived, so you can catch us later if you're not able to be here today. Doug, this is show number 4.
This is incredible, and what a learning curve. Thank you so much. Your experience and what you've taught me so far, and I continue to learn and really appreciate the help, Laurie. We've got some incredible guests lined up this year leading up to the Invictus Games, and this is just so exciting to be able to process the stories that we're able to share with people from athletes, from soldiers, from people who are just trying to get by and build their self-worth again. That's what needs to be done right now. That'll help everybody. Take the pressure off the whole system if we can just do that better.
Absolutely. Well, I decided to go au naturel today because if you recall, on our first show, you got to share your wall. And I didn't because I wasn't available in my studio at the time. So I thought today to take just a couple of minutes and I'll share my wall so people get to know me a little better. Is that okay with you, Doug?
I'd love to see it. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, up here in the top shelf is a portion of my legal library. I have 300 volumes dated from 1867 to 1905. And they belonged to Senator Alexander J. McFarland in Nova Scotia, who was a senator during Confederation. And at one time, I purchased his property. It was, of course, out of the family for decades, but the library was still in the house. And so I was able to take ownership and take care. And I've been lugging these books around now for about 20 years. But they're amazing. Every law that was ever created in Canada from 1867 to 1905, I have the original recordings of those laws. Wow. So that's the top shelf. And underneath was my COVID project. I was involved in a compilation book called Ignite the Entrepreneur, and 36 of international entrepreneurs wrote a chapter. And out of that, I created 100 workshops just for entrepreneurs. And my bottom shelf, I dedicate to my work in the Indigenous community. I've spent 25 years working on and off reserve. Let's see what else. Oh, these are just some trophies and awards that I've been given for my work. And let's see, down here I have your book, Doug. All my books that have been authored and signed have a special place on my bookshelf. So that's kind of a little bit about me.
Well, thanks so much, Laurie. That's amazing. I hope other people are putting the things that they care about behind them. You talked about something the other day. You noticed somebody with all their certificates on the wall and how you reminded them they needed to take them out of a box. And I went down and I probably have 20 different certificates from certain things that I've accomplished, and some of them around even around brain injury and initiatives that we push through, and they're downstairs in a box. And so now it's bugging me because you mentioned it. It's bothering me almost every day. So I'm going to have to go down and pull them out and put a frame around them.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I'll just take my camera here. We all need to have a wall of fame, and people gave us these things because we were worthy of them, and so it's important for us to, even the smallest little thing, if we volunteered somewhere or because it's those little things that really make a difference.
It is. And so we're looking forward to spending time with Christina today. And maybe you could share a little bit about Christina for us and who's going to be visiting with us today.
Yeah, well, today we're going to be welcoming Olympian Christina Smith. And Christina and I met about 4 years ago. We'll bring her in right after our break. Uh, about 4 years ago, I met Christina on another network and we connected. And I just found her to be so gracious and beautiful. And not sure, I don't know if she would like me to say this, but not your typical looking athlete. She's extremely gorgeous and feminine and beautiful smile, and she's just got this beautiful voice. And she was a pioneer. She helped pave the way for females in bobsledding, and then ended up winning. But she'll tell us a bit about that when we see her, and we'll bring her in a few minutes. Um, Something else I'd like to share today too. Doug,
Yes.
a very good friend of ours, Sylvia Somerville, with whom I want Christina to connect with, because Sylvia launched a novel yesterday that she's been working on for 5 years. It went on the shelves yesterday. It'll be going into Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, the bookstores, and on Amazon. And Sylvia wrote a book called Jigsaw. And life is like a jigsaw puzzle. So we all need to get behind that and purchase our copy. You can get an e-copy or hard copy, paperback, whatever, from Amazon. Just go in and search Sylvia Somerville. She has, I think she has a dozen or more books in there right now. And so I just want to put a little plug in for her today.
Wonderful. And congratulations, Sylvia. Amazing. Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So anything else we need to catch up on for our viewers today, Doug? Anything? Oh, you should talk a bit about our recovery summit, how that went on the weekend.
Well, I was just going to jump in there and say that having 15 people together for a few days and having the chance to hear their stories and how they relate. Everyone's stories on the weekend seem to relate to one another, and the feedback I've gotten from it and the conversations I've had with my family. I mean, it was just such a positive experience. I'd recommend it to anybody, Laurie. Really, really would.
Yes, and our next one is May 31st, June 1st and 2nd, and we've invited 18 speakers. And I pretty much have everybody filled in, but we do still have a few spots if anybody is interested in sharing their recovery story. The stories are very inspiring. And also, too, Doug, why don't you share a little bit about the Disability Channel and how you got connected with them, because that's why we're here.
Yeah, Jay Stoyan, who owns the Disability Channel, and Stefan Beardwood and Veterans House met, and we got introduced. And I work with Veterans House, and Jay's running a media company that's training people to get on with their new career, helping people with disabilities that have suffered get their media certificates. And so it was a natural fit for me to jump in the car and go down to Burlington and meet with Jay Stoyan and say, look, we put our heads together, put the connections together, bring in Veterans House and Stefan Beardwood, and allow a relationship that can help veterans get retrained, that can help veterans in business, that can help people with disabilities. It's really exploded. The relationship has exploded, and we're looking forward to just moving forward. And the relationships down south of the border are developing. So there's going to be some big announcements, Laurie. I look forward to making those over the next year.
You bet. And Doug, would you like to just explain, because I had to do a bit of research. Unless we're involved directly in the sports arena, there are certain things going on that we don't really know about. So would you like to explain to our viewers what are the Invictus Games?
Okay, the Invictus Games is Prince Harry, the royal family. It's a global event done every 2 years. And in 2025, February, it will happen. The event will happen in Whistler. Now, what it is it's injured soldiers that have come back and are competing in what is the Olympics for former soldiers that have suffered an injury in combat. And so it's grown over the years. Every country in the world would love to have it. We have it in Whistler, BC this next year, and it's just so exciting that in Canada we have it, let alone being in conversations about how I can help. So I'm basically there to help, and we're figuring things out right now.
Cool. And I think there's approximately 500 participants. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, and I'm sure that a record, like I believe personally that the record of the number of athletes, the number of participants, people who are involved is going to be shattered in Whistler. I really do feel that it's going to take, this will take the Invictus Games to the next level.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, excellent. Well, I think that's our catch up for today, Doug. We'll be missing you next week because you're going on a holiday, and then you'll be back and right back at it. So we'll look forward to the tan when you get back.
Yeah. Lots of sunscreen on this head.
Absolutely. So let's see, what else have we got to say? We're going to go for a little break, and right after the break, we'll bring in our guest.
I was just going to mention for the next summit that's happening at the end of May, I'm going to be talking about something that I've never talked about, which is addiction and professional sports.
I love it.
Because every single one of those guys out on the ice is an addict. They start that way. Mm-hmm. Right? And they're created and cultivated to be that way. Mm-hmm. And so the resistance to other things that you get addicted to is very low, very low. And, mm-hmm. and so my experience being dropped off in Los Angeles at 18 years old in the South Bay, where cocaine became the main importer of cocaine into the United States. My story about surviving and weaving through the streets of Los Angeles as an NHL hockey player with virtually no support from the team, because it was the first year the 18-year-olds had ever been drafted. So the LA Kings had no idea what to do with Doug Smith. So, I'm going to tell that story and a few of the, talk about maybe, a few of the people I met along the way who are close enough to me in Hollywood that I don't mind mentioning their names.
Yeah, well, at our event, not a problem, right? Excellent. Well, that'll be very cool to hear that story, Doug. I'm looking forward to that. And congratulations for becoming vulnerable. More vulnerable.
When you write a book, Laurie, and the first person to look at it, your editor looks at it, said, take everything negative out of that book. And so I did. Out of my first book, I took a lot of stuff because there's a lot of names, right? There's a lot of names of a lot of famous people that I know. Mm-hmm. And it was never my intention to cause harm to those people, because we were all in the same boat. We were behaving like morons sometimes, right? So I took all the negative stuff out, or stuff that might, I guess, bring everything down. But I think it's time. I think society's at a place right now, personally, after writing Thriving in Transition and the Trauma Code. I think society's ready now for what I have to say, and because it's just me, it's just my experience. So nobody can begrudge me from telling my own story. So I look forward to sharing that over the next year.
Excellent, beautiful. All right, well, we're just going to take a quick break, and then I'll bring our guest is in the back room here. So we'll bring her forward, the beautiful Christina Smith. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Press Box, Recovery and Performance. I'm your co-host, Dr. Laurie Davis, my host, Doug Smith, and our guest today, Christina Smith. Welcome to the show, Christina.
Hey, hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
Okay, All right. First of all, there's a movie, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. This wouldn't be it, would it?
I promise. We've never met. No, it's just
Okay, okay,
amazing.
but yeah, that's right. That's amazing.
I love it.
So, yeah, for sure.
So 28, tell me before we even start, why 28? What happened there?
28, that's my age. No, I'm just joking. It was a jersey given to me. So there you go, Doug. Where's the jersey you're going to share with your sister here?
One's coming at you. You just got to pick the team. So we've got Los Angeles, Buffalo, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Pittsburgh. You got to pick the jersey that you want.
Okay, I'll work on that.
All right. Well, good morning, Christina. Thank you for being here with us today. So we're just going to start off with just having you share a little bit about what are you doing? What are you doing now? What's happening?
Well, I thought since we're in the jersey mode, I'd put my own hoodie on. The enhanced games is really where all my focus has been. And I was headhunted of all things to be on the Athlete Advisory Commission to advise them around creating a 21st century, sports movement. Essentially, it's athletes revolution. I look at it as a science revolution around sports and science and the merging of both worlds. And the enhanced games is something that I'm very passionate about. It came from left field, and I'm so happy they found me because while I was an athlete, I always merged into the world of science with the natural supplementations. So from vitamin intravenous's to prolotherapy, neural therapy, ozone therapy, all these things that may not mean much to you, but they're all natural forms of now I would consider them enhancements, that in the sense of enhancing the recovery process or the rejuvenation of your body so that you were able to overcome, the hard workouts or the jet lag or whatever you were doing, or injuries prevention. So, but never did I think that putting natural elements in your body through an IV or a needle was so-called banned. And because people look at enhancements as being, say on the other side of the spectrum, the pharmaceutical ones that you hear of. And but we're actually removing the boundaries of, in a sense, the not permitting athletes to explore the areas that they've wanted to do with faster, higher, stronger. Being able to use science, use performance enhancements from a broad spectrum. FDA approved compounds is what we are promoting, absolutely. And we're really opening up the minds of people to remove the stigma around performance enhancements and look at also paying athletes. So the Enhanced Games is about celebrating science, educating the public, paying athletes for their dedication, their performances, their achievements, and really valuing athletes and making a business model that is way more effective using venture capitalist money versus taxpayers and using pre-existing facilities. It's quite an amazing thing that we're doing.
Is it a science, or is it a science event or a sporting event?
It's a sporting event all the way.
But it still has the dynamics of a science event, though, does it not? I mean, are you going to be? Is the intention to study these athletes as they go through the process to be able to compare them to the other side, let's say?
There is an opportunity for athletes to, be part of science and experimentation, and monitoring their development, training and really looking to further science and writing papers and science, journals around what we're experiencing with the evolution of our human species through sports and science. We will be, however, educating through science conferences in conjunction with our games as well. So yes, it's actually pretty, an equal playing field in the sense of education, sports, bringing forth the best and greatest scientists and their discoveries and what they're passionate about.
Okay, so where is the line? Are you using the FDA as a line? Is that, or is there some other line that we can look at?
No, how our line is FDA approved compounds. However, we're dealing with adult, athletes. We're dealing with my body, my choice mantra. And so there's, we're not about controlling people. We've had that in our experience through COVID, needing to tell everybody about what we had chosen to do, whether vaxxed or not vaxxed. Whereas here we're in an environment that we empower the athlete, we educate the athlete. In doing so, we're educating the public. These enhancements and things that are going around have been in Hollywood for decades. And right now we're becoming transparent with what is available. We're discussing it, just like they did with cannabis in Canada. They've made it a legalized compound, a legalized avenue for people. And now people can actually compare things and talk about it and see the benefits that a lot of these things can bring to our lives, with pain and inflammation and migraine headaches, you name it. There's so many things that I've heard that I never even knew about. And now we're creating a conversation, taking away the stigma. And I think it's very much around, what we choose through this discussion today is around the stigma of brain injuries and mental health.
Yes,
And getting better and getting better, right?
Yeah.
It's like, should you allow the same philosophy to exist in people getting better from brain injuries, as you do allow them to use it for performance enhancement, right? It's almost all on the same it's almost all on the same plane, right?
Yeah. No, there's so much that we can bring forth through this whole initiative. We just had a big conference at the House of Lords in London, England, so in Parliament, to really bring the conversation forward. And we had 54 of the greatest minds and scientists and thinkers out there that came together to have a non-judgmental platform to discuss, from the nutraceutical, the naturopathic side of things, all the way to the pharmaceutical sides, the medical doctors and such, that we're in discussions and looking at collaborations and opening, this education to the people, but also looking at encouraging the UK government to assign a minister of human enhancement, because they've come forth with so many inventions from, AI to the World Wide Web, like that initiated in the UK,
Yes.
and they lost that just because they didn't keep on it and hit the ground running and go, whereas the Americans, they swiped that up and now they're reaping the rewards of such things. So we feel that the enhanced area, of the human, being able to have anti-aging, longevity, discussions and enhancements, human enhancements as a discussion, and the ability to implement that in our healthcare, it would be a really amazing thing for, the healthcare system to embrace and to make available for people.
A massive opportunity.
That's
Laurie?
awesome.
Do you have
Yeah.
any
Yes,
questions,
I have a
Laurie?
question. Yes, thank you.
Sure.
So let's just share with our viewers a little bit of your background so that they understand why you'd be so excited and passionate about what you're doing now. So let's just have a little walk through memory lane with Christina Smith.
Sure. I was approached at university to be a bobslayer because I had the physique, the broad shoulders, the big strong legs, the big butt, and more so the hard head, the determined spirit. And I didn't really think much about it because I honestly I thought they were asking me to be an astronaut because I didn't know that women actually did this. Well, they didn't really. They started at the very beginnings of history of bobsleigh, but then they realized that, um, some teams that had women on it, a girl boy team, that they actually started to beat out the guy teams, the two men teams. And so that didn't sit well. So they conveniently pushed us out of the sport and said that it was too disturbing to our insides, our reproductive organs. Anyway, so they kept us out for around 80 years. And then we started to make a comeback by pioneering the sport around the world. And that really thrilled me, despite my first run was horrific. I was afraid, beyond afraid. And I just knew that I needed a purpose that was really profound. And one was, number one, learn how to drive, put your life in your own hands. And the other thing was, be a pioneer and inspire women around the world, especially the next generation of young women, to step into courage and to, do something that doesn't have a blueprint and really, bring something new to the world. And that's kind of my background. And it just flourished from there to the Olympic Games. But a lot of, I would say, things that I wasn't aware of that was going on, that were going on during my career, meaning, feelings inside of me, anxiousness, uncertainty, the second guessing myself, or looking at like forgetting what I had done in, the morning by the evening or the day after, like little things that were starting to creep in that would give me doubt about, like, why is this happening? And and then just that uncertainty, having fear. um yeah, it was concerning because I went in with the iron will, with the courage of like a lion, and I was a risk taker. I was just a go get 'em tiger, kind of thing. And yeah, and so it really was really confusing for me to start developing these feelings, and I would blame myself. And by self-blaming was really getting me lower and lower and lower, and feeling really rough. So yeah, so that's kind of transitioning a little bit into where we're going, probably.
Well, was it because of was it because of not winning? It would drive you crazy. If you won, you felt like $1 million, and if you lost, you felt like nothing, like less than nothing. Was that it, Christina?
Not at all, actually, because I was somebody that my my biggest competitor, like the person I was trying to win against, was me. I could not care less who else was doing what around me, because I was so focused on my, higher, faster, higher, stronger kind of mentality, and being the best that I could be, that was my focus. So if I felt that I did an amazing job, and I like put every ounce of myself into it, and every ounce of preparation, and I ended up, say, in 12th place, I felt like I won, because
Hmm.
I knew that was like I gave it my all. And there are times that I
Mhm.
found myself on the podium, and I told myself, you don't deserve to be here. You did not, give your best, and you could have done better. And so that's how kind of I
Mm.
was as an individual. But those deteriorating factors that I was mentioning, it was more something that was invisible, something that was happening on the inside. And it was something that I really didn't know how to pinpoint, but I knew was happening. And there was one thing, and it was like I was mentioning, how I would forget the night, what I had done the previous day.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody would have to say, oh, well, we went to a movie. And all of a sudden it was like this lightning bolt just connected these two wires inside of me. And then everything flooded back.
And would you call the injury you had to your brain cumulative physical? Was it sounds like it was cumulative physical trauma, not catastrophic physical trauma. Would that be a correct assumption?
Yeah, but at the time I had no idea, because I had never been diagnosed with a brain injury. I had, I'd crashed. That's, part of bobsleigh. You learn, and we, of course, as women who didn't have, the design and the support that the men did, because it was male dominated, and they had all the, coaching and rehab staff and stuff like that. Whereas we had to learn by trial and error. So, coaching one another or picking up tips here and there. But yeah, so when I actually was having these experiences, I never, ever, ever thought it came from within my brain. And that's where, if anything, I had, if I look at kind of how I was dealing with things along my journey, um, I we had experienced, severe crashes from, a few of my friends that flew out of the track. One into the trees, knocked out, and the other one, who flew out of a track, who was in a coma. And I was like the first person to like run to the scene, and to volunteer to be the translator in the French, hospital, because I felt that they needed help, because they were English speaking, the UK team. So I went, to help out. I never thought of it as being, it would hurt me or set me back, because I had such courage and conviction about what I knew to do as a bobslayer. I didn't have any hesitation. But as time went on, that hesitation started to overwhelm me, and the anxiety and the fear. And so when we actually had another athlete, a friend of mine from Germany, fly out of the track, and she was killed, that set me back, to the point that I felt afraid to go forward in my next season. To the
You
point,
had to you had to do it, but you were so afraid to do it. So you knew it had to be done, but
yeah,
wow, that's an awful feel. That's terrible. That's terrible.
yeah. And I think I actually manifested an
Mm,
injury. And
mhm.
a lot of times we don't realize that a lot of our fears and things we keep inside of our tissues, to the point that we can cause injury. And so that was, yeah, I was injured, and it was the end of my career.
We're just going to take a little break right there so everybody can get their breath and continue our talk with our guest today, Christina Smith, Olympian, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. You're watching The Press Box. My host, Doug Smith, co-host, Dr. Laurie Davis, our guest today, Christina Smith. Lots of great questions there, Doug, and I'm glad she was able to answer them all for you with such eloquence, of course, which I know she can do. But on the girly side of things, when in those moments when you thought you were losing it, or you thought there was something wrong, what did you do? How did you react to that or respond to that when you realized, oh, memory loss, oh, confusion, oh, anxiety? What did you do?
I blame myself. I blame myself, because I was somebody very much in control. of, I had emotional regulation. I was somebody who's very grounded, very confident in my abilities, very confident in my knowingness. And I had great intuition. I had just all these things that I'd been molded in a certain way, especially from my parents, just to really believe in myself and not to try to be somebody else but me, because that's what I was given. So you use what you have and may you make the most of it. And so I was that kind of person. So when those things started to deteriorate, my outer shell per se, or even my inner shell more so, um, I was very much like, come on now, smarten up. Like, what's going on? This is not like you. And so it was this constant beating up, but never, ever, ever did I look from the outside trying to blame people or things. I mean, the worst thing, a bobslayer is known to have excuse. We have an excuse shirt. It was the weather, it was the ice condition, it was the push, the brakeman or the whatever. Like, there's all these things, my equipment. But I never was somebody that was like that. It was always, I would rather take responsibility upon myself. It was me. How can I fix me? And so that was very hard on me. And I wouldn't recommend that. That's why I really like sharing this story, because it's it's part of educating the public, and that's super important to me, is to take all the disasters and all the hardships and all the just the things that did not go well from my past, to create a new recipe and to create something that helps people to discover something that may be helpful, that may change their life.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm.
Now,
So let's, go ahead, Doug, you have a question?
No, I was just going to say, when you're dealing with the brain injury side of things, I'm always curious. Like, is there anybody that you're working with, or if somebody who's listening to this had a brain injury, or they had a family member that had a brain injury, is there any place or thing that you could recommend for them to do?
Yes, absolutely. Do you know, part of kind of the discovery of the brain injury actually came with being asked to go as an Olympian to support a charity event, which was involving brain injuries. And the doctor came up on stage and she said, to everybody, you may not realize it, but you may have a brain injury. And she started to tell, the public about the different symptoms and the signs that you can look out for. One was short or long-term memory loss, inability to focus, anxiety, fear, depression. Does that sound kind of familiar? So those things were, all of a sudden I was like checking off the boxes, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I have to go talk to this doctor, because she suggested a brain map, which was essentially a QEEG, which is, in a big mouthful of words, a quantitative electroencephalograph. And so this thing involves 19 wires that are coming out of a little cap that you put on your head with a little gel to make the connection properly. And it's connected to a machine that is to record the brain waves within your mind, your brain. And it essentially gave me feedback, a report that the doctor then went over with me, um, to tell me that certain areas of my brain were firing, not firing, partially firing, and uh, and every area of my brain pertained to the symptoms that I was actually experiencing, uh, of where those areas weren't firing properly. So it was as if this doctor, Dr. Donaldson, was actually the one that did the brain map for me. And they ended up coming up with a solution, which was biofeedback neurofeedback, which is about rewiring the brain's activity. And that just changed my world. It gave me a whole new perspective on things. It rewired myself. I was inspired to do a master's degree after that. And it was something that was really life-changing. Going from somebody who couldn't get themselves out of bed, and to fearing actually going back to bed that evening, because I'd have to do it all over again, to myself. And I will say that I was so inspired, and this may sound weird, but inspired by the suicides of my friends in my sport of bobsleigh that were occurring, to dig deeper within myself to say, you need to make this public. You need to stop these deaths from occurring, or at least have an impact on educating people, so that the ones that are suffering with the symptoms that I was going through may not give up on themselves. Because a lot of I had 3 friends that had, taken their life. And I heard later that they were experiencing some symptoms and, side effects of their sport career, with having had concussions and essentially micro vibrations, micro concussions from the experience of bobsleigh. And it could also, of course, be rampant. I really feel that there's a silent pandemic in the brain injury area in sports in general, of multiple sports that are out there. So this was really inspiring to take something that was so horrific and make it into, I need to write a book, I need to expose what's going on inside of me and what I've lived with. And I need to educate people, bring those scientists and the neuroscientists and different people in my world together.
Isn't it all about measuring? It really is all about measuring, right? Because physics says what we measure grows. And so you, like I did, and I'll tell my story another time of what I went through to get my body working again. Same thing. You went after measurement. You went after reality. It's like, I want to measure this stuff, then I want to know what's not working, and then I want to do what I need to do to get that thing working. It's almost a carbon copy of what I did to go from, paralyzed from the chest down to functioning again. And I have 90%. I don't have 100, but I still believe I can get more back, right? And so do you.
You know what? Absolutely. And I don't feel like this brain map, that actually initially it was Dr. Tracy Thompson out of Calgary as well. That was the first one to guide me to it. But it's also another neuroscientist that I met out of California, Dr. Kristen Willemeyer, and she has written a book called Biohack Your Brain. And this has elevated my education to the point of understanding more about nutrition for the brain, supplementation for the brain, physical fitness for the brain, hydration for the brain. I do everything for this thing. And when you address your hard drive, what's making everything below it work, you are tackling so much that's needed in the body. And so I really have a different perspective on health and wellness, to address the brain first and foremost. That's what drives us. That's what makes us. And once you fix that thing, and get it working with proper sleep and everything that I've mentioned, it will reward you tenfold. Yeah.
Yeah. And happiness. Don't forget about that part, right? That's the biggie. Now, Laurie, isn't that the big one?
Definitely. Health and wealth equal happiness.
Well, so, lasting happiness, not the type of happiness you get from the short-term stuff.
Short-lived stuff. So, Christina, our time is just about up for you today, and I just want to express my gratitude and appreciation for making the time for us today, because everything that you shared is extremely invaluable. And this format goes out. And so people will be listening to it for all the days of their lives. So thank you so much. And Doug, thank you for the great questions. And the last but not least, I want to put up on a little banner here for you during the last part of the show. We'll say goodbye to you right now. What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah.
You can go to enhanced.org is one location where you can contact me through there, or you can go onto Olympian Christina Smith on Instagram. That's another avenue to touch base.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah,
you have a great rest of the day. Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Doug, we're just going to take a little 30-second break here, and we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, everyone. And there's the website if you'd like to contact Christina Smith in any way, shape, or form. Just go in there and you'll reach out to her. Doug, we have about 10 minutes. And I just wanted to share that during that break, when you see that 30-second come up, I'm putting those in there right now because those spaces are being reserved for future sponsors, advertisers, people who would like to support the show with their product, program, and service. So if that's something that is of interest to you, you would contact me, and I'll put my email address up on the banner, or Doug, either one, but I shall do it for you. And anything you want to say about that, Doug, because we are connected with Veterans House, which is a nonprofit organization. Our channel, the Disability Channel, is a nonprofit organization. And so money flows into us 3 different ways. Number 1, donations. Number 2, sponsorships and ads. And number 3, I guess 3 is, the bigger sponsors who may come in and sponsor the show for a whole year or whatever. So if that is something that is of interest to you, you can contact me. Did I leave anything out there, Doug? I feel like I'm forgetting something.
I think it's about growth when it comes to sponsorship, because right now we're on a trajectory that's straight up, and the subject matter that we're talking about, the people that we're bringing on board, the market that we're dealing with, it all fits for a couple of different verticals. So give us a call, have a conversation with us, and we'll figure it out. Because if you're doing something good for the world out there with your product or service, we want to make sure that people are aware of it, right? And so give us a call, let us know, and then we'll figure out whether it fits or not. If it doesn't, hey, no big deal.
I'm just going to put my number up there. I've put in there, call the doc. So
no, what an amazing story. And the part that stood out for me the first time I heard her story, she didn't talk about it, we'll have to have her back to talk about it some more, was the vibration that she talked about, like on the head when she was doing the runs, like in that sleigh, just that the vibration of her brain going off, and the impact of that happening over and over again. And then the awakening that she's measuring, she's got the tools, and she's getting better all the time. And that's the cool thing about this. And Stefan Beardwood, the executive director of Veterans House, is the same way. He's using the same tools, and he's continuously getting better. And I've known him for 7 or 8 years. He was dead stop, hit a wall, and then now it's like every time I see him, it's just improvement. And so where does it end? Where does the improvement end? I haven't been able to recognize an end point yet. So just,
Well, I think like anything else, Doug, and we'll have Stefan in too to tell his story, because you have your own story too. But I believe whether we're brain injured or not, and like our guest Christina Smith said, we're all probably brain injured on some level, some aspect. Something's not firing up one day, and that's that. I love the terminology. So, for me personally, whether it's working there, getting the brain healthy, working on my body to get it healthy, keep it healthy, there is no arrival time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, okay, the train stops here and now I don't have to do another thing. I think life is just one continuous path of growth, and growth comes with healing. And that's what Christina talked about, healing that brain. But there's other parts of us that need to be healed as well. So healing, learning new ways of doing things, our own personal development and our professional development. And it's an ongoing journey, don't you think?
I do. And in the other economy of hockey, I don't know if people know this, but at the time I played, it was about every 3 games you'd get a stinger or you'd get concussed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you add it up, every 3 to 4, let's say every 3 or 4 games, and I was banging into everybody, right? So let's say every 4 games, just to be fair, that's 20 a year times 10. That's over 250 concussions I suffered in my career. It's like, and that's light compared to the football players, because the football players are getting concussed every practice,
Right.
And so it's but the speed in hockey is so much faster. So it's 5 times faster than football, right? So when you do make impact with somebody, it's important for people to know this. When you make impact with somebody, it's your deceleration force has to measure up against the strength of your axons in your brain, because if it doesn't, if you hit too hard, the axons have to stop, and they can't stop. So even a shoulder-to-shoulder impact at 25 miles an hour, you're going to get, your brain just doesn't go, I'm just going to stay stable for you. It's a big.
Well, not to minimize Christina's injuries or yours or anybody else out there, but about 8 years ago, I fell, lost my balance, and I landed on my baby toe. And I broke that baby toe. And you know how small the bones are in your feet. That little toe, I was swollen from the knee down. I was off my feet for 6 weeks. It hurt like hell. I can't even imagine what that's the most extensive pain I've ever had. And I'm thinking, how do people survive all those injuries? Not just in sports, but like if you come out of a bad car accident, or like, it's so painful.
It's, what saves your life is the drugs. That's the thing about the healthcare system. People knock it, but if you're badly injured, there's no other place you want to be, because morphine solves a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the problem is they forget about you after a while. So they just don't have time to keep up with you. So they forget about you. And meanwhile, you're still popping the morphine pills like 3 years later.
And you've become an addict, a drug addict.
That's unfortunately the model. There is no aftercare model in the healthcare system. They patch you up, and then they kick you out onto the street and say, good luck with everything. And it's nobody's fault right now.
No.
All we're trying to do is figure out a way to make it work for everybody, because we're all facing, everybody knows we're facing a terrible time in the healthcare system. And there's half of the people that are listening to us today probably don't have their own family doctor. So like, what are we going to do? Let's get better, and let's teach people in our family how to get better.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great way to end the show today, Doug. And thank you for being here and being a great host today. And another thank you to our guest, Christina. So we're going to say goodbye for now, and see you soon. And we'll put our notices out. And Doug, you have a terrific time away.
Thank you. Thank you.
Talk to you all soon.
And happy March break, everybody. Have a great time with those kids. Have a great time.